Today I'm going to be responding to a comment that I received on a recent video of mine titled, Yang drops out? Bernie time? No. Tulsi time! Tulsi adopts UBI! In that video, I decided to show support for Tulsi Gabbard for adopting UBI after Andrew Yang dropped out of the election. I, of course, am one of the original Yang gang, so I've been rooting on Andrew Yang for over a year now, hoping that he'd become the next president of the United States, implement a universal basic income, give us all $1,000 per month, or in other words, $12,000 a year that we don't have to work at some shitty job for. It's just given to us. So yeah, I mentioned I was pretty happy with Tulsi for doing the right thing by adopting UBI, and I mentioned that we should put pressure on the other remaining candidates to also adopt UBI, like to the point where we're threatening to not vote for them unless they adopt a good UBI policy. But I got a comment on that video that disagrees with me. Let's have a look at what the comment says.
Okay, how should I put this?
With a question mark at the end of your question instead of a period. I mean, just, if you care about proper punctuation. If you don't, then fuck it. It doesn't matter.
Either you get behind Sanders, he needs to overwin in order to win, otherwise the DNC will screw him over, or you won't get affordable housing, free healthcare, a living wage, a Green New Deal, the end of the war on drugs. All you'll get is 4 more years of Trump and the consequent poor and middle class devastation that comes from it.
Dude, let's be real. Bernie doesn't need my vote to win. If he did, he'd adopt UBI. Since he hasn't adopted UBI, that demonstrates he doesn't need my vote. That said, if the DNC is going to screw over Bernie, just as Bernie's going to screw the Yang gang out of $1,000 per month unless he adopts UBI, if the DNC is going to screw over Bernie, well, that's something they'd probably do regardless of whether I voted for Bernie or not. Now, with that out of the way, you seem to think that a President Bernie Sanders would bring about certain things that a President Bernie Sanders would probably not actually bring about. One of the things you mentioned there was affordable housing. Bernie does have an affordable housing for all policy. It's my favorite Bernie policy. If he does become the next President of the United States, I look forward to getting my affordable housing. But here's the thing. Bernie's got a lot of other ambitious ideas that are going to cost a lot of money. The more of them that he passes, the harder it becomes to pass the other ones, just because of how much they cost. And I'm not one of these people who thinks that we're in danger of running out of money. Oh, the budget deficit, how can we afford everything, right? That's all bullshit. Like, we are constantly creating new money, new cash, new coin. Most of the money in circulation right now is digits in a fucking computer. We're not going to run out of fucking money. That's bullshit. Okay? But it's not me you have to convince. It's the conservatives at Congress. Okay? Those people are... Our system of checks and balances is just not fucking working. We got to do away with that bullshit. It's okay to set higher standards in regard to who we allow into positions of political authority, especially if we're talking President of the United States, but Congress is just getting in the way of progress. Not all of them, of course, but most of them are pretty problematic. Suffice it to say, if Bernie successfully brings about Medicare for all, it becomes less likely that we're going to get, free college, student debt forgiveness, stuff like that. But if we do get that stuff in addition to Medicare for all, it's less likely that we get the Green New Deal, federal jobs guarantee, stuff like that. But if we do get all that stuff in addition to free college, student debt forgiveness, and Medicare for all, it's less likely that we get affordable housing for all. Now, even if Bernie does successfully implement affordable housing for all, it's something that will be gradually implemented over the course of 10 years, which is longer than 2 presidential terms in office. Or in other words, I would not be receiving the benefits of that policy any time soon. I might even die before I get my affordable housing. Contrast that with UBI. Okay, if we get a UBI president, then we can have UBI as early as 2021, right? A UBI can more swiftly help out more people than all of Bernie's policies combined. So it's pretty asinine that Bernie's favoring these other policies over a universal basic income. So what about this free healthcare that you mentioned? It's technically not free healthcare. You know, what Bernie says is that it's free at the point of service. That's because he recognizes it's not actually free, right? It's tax funded. You know, he calls his healthcare plan a single payer healthcare plan, single payer Medicare for all. It's technically public pay, right? It's funded by the public. Yes, the money is coming from the government, but where did the government get that money? They got it from the public. They tax the public. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be a terrible healthcare plan or anything like that. It might even be awesome. I don't know. We'll have to do the experiment to see for sure. My point here is just simply that it's not technically free healthcare. So what about this living wage that you mentioned? Is Bernie actually offering a living wage? No, that would be Yang and Gabbard. It's our UBI candidates who are offering a living wage, or at least a living income, right? $1,000 per month that you can live off of, regardless of whether you have a job or not. That's not what Bernie's offering. What Bernie is offering, you know, what people are erroneously referring to as a living wage, is raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. The minimum wage, that is money that's paid out to workers. It's money that an employer pays their employees. If you're unemployed, living on the streets, begging for spare change, you don't benefit from the minimum wage being raised to $15 an hour. You know what you could benefit from? $1,000 per month. Now, when I talk about living on $1,000 per month, that is not going to all by itself be enough to afford luxuries like a house or an apartment, all the corresponding bills that come with that. You know, paying for all that in addition to all the other expenses, I think that'd be very difficult on, you know, only $1,000 per month. But what if you don't have a house or an apartment? You know, if you're homeless, unemployed, living on the streets, begging for spare change, you don't have to pay rent, then $1,000 per month is going to be enough to afford a tent, a pillow, a blanket, food, an occasional change of clothing, medicine, some inexpensive form of transportation, like a cheap car or a bike or a scooter. You could afford a phone with a solar-powered battery charger and even a Discover Pass, which allows you to get more affordable campsites. But of course, it's not just unemployed people who could benefit from an extra $1,000 per month. I've got a job, you know, I'm not unemployed. Let me put it this way, though. With my current earnings at my current job, if I ever want to have enough money to be able to comfortably afford to move out of my mom's house and get my own place, well, in the current paradigm, that means that I'm going to need to work more hours than what I'm currently working, which is not something I'm looking forward to. But if we implemented a UBI, right, if I was just being given $1,000 extra bucks per month, then I won't have to put in more hours than what I'm currently working. What I'm working right now is fine. But yeah, my point here simply is that if you want everyone to have enough income to live off of, $1,000 per month is going to do that better than raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, you can totally do both, but if everyone's being given $1,000 per month, then it's less necessary to have such significant increases in the minimum wage. Now, in regard to this idea that Bernie is going to end the war on drugs, no, he's not. He's actually said he's not there yet. If you want to end the war on drugs, Yang or Tulsi Gabbard would be the better way to go. Tulsi Gabbard is actually the one who's most progressive on this subject. She would actually legalize, tax, and regulate all these drugs that are currently illegal. Bernie's not going to do that. Suffice it to say, unless Bernie adopts UBI, I don't really expect his time in office to do anything to noticeably improve my quality of life. If it does, then it's probably not going to happen anytime soon.
I knew the Yang Gang was a one-issue movement, but I never thought it was this bad and this out of touch.
No, it's definitely not true that Yang Gang is a one-issue movement. I mean, universal basic income all by itself would help people out with an array of different issues. Plus, on top of that, Yang had a bunch of other policies for dealing with a bunch of other issues. That's why anyone who's watched as many Yang Gang videos as I've watched would have seen the Yang Gang talking about a whole bunch of different issues. Hell, if you go back through my previous videos, you can see me talking about all sorts of issues. One of the things that me, Yang, and various other people in the Yang Gang have been talking about is affordable housing. Yang, of course, has a policy to kind of relax some of these NIMBY zoning laws, the not in my backyard laws that are keeping housing so expensive. He wants to free up more land so that we can build more affordable housing, which in turn just might make some of the other housing more affordable. Another issue that me, Yang, and the Yang Gang have talked about is the legalization of marijuana and the decriminalization of these various other drugs, opening up safe injection sites which have proven effective at helping recovering addicts. We've talked about having government-funded personalization of guns, or in other words, upgrading the guns that people already own so that they are safer to keep around the house. We've talked about climate change, thorium nuclear, electric cars, blah, 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 blah. So much stuff. Like what the fuck are you talking about? This is a one-issue movement. That's total bullshit, and you fucking know it.
Tulsi has no chance whatsoever.
Well, that's probably true. I mean, technically there are some hypothetical scenarios that could theoretically turn this around in Tulsi's favor, but yeah, it's not like any of those scenarios are actually likely to happen. Tulsi's chances of winning this thing are looking pretty bleak. So my reasoning for showing support for Tulsi has nothing to do with any illusions about her chances of winning. I recognize she does not have a realistic chance at winning this thing. My reasoning for showing support for her is because, well, of the people who are still in this election, which does not include Yang because he dropped out, of the people who are still in this election, Tulsi is the one that I would most want to have as the next president of the United States. Okay? It used to be that Bernie was my next choice after Yang, but when Yang dropped out, Tulsi adopted UBI and Bernie did not. In fact, if Bernie becomes the next president of the United States, but does not adopt UBI, then it's kind of like he's prevented me from getting UBI by beating both Yang and Tulsi. It's like he's coming between me and my $1,000 per month, like a villain.
She should have dropped out months ago and endorsed Sanders.
Nah, I don't agree with that. I mean, why should a UBI candidate drop out to endorse an inferior candidate who wouldn't implement a UBI? As we've established, UBI would more swiftly help out more people than all of Bernie's policies combined.
She could put herself in good position to be his VP, but instead is choosing to hurting the cause and help make some corporate hack the nominee by stealing votes from the one reliable progressive option in the race.
Okay, if you're accusing Tulsi of stealing votes, that's ridiculous. She earned those votes. She's the one who adopted UBI. Bernie did not. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and share it with other people. If you're interested in watching my future videos, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you all in the next one. So have a good one, guys, and peace.
Yang Gang 2020. Yang Gang 2020. Yang Gang 2020. Yang Gang.